question mark is not right.
No, never mind. I'm just looking at the thing. That's 5 was the last one, so yeah, 6 right.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, because we're pros. That's why we got it right on the first try, second, third try. All right. Let me switch to CRASHDOM view, and we're live. So let me boost you so I can make sure you're nice and loud. Got you 157%. All right.
Oh my goodness, you need to go that high?
Yeah. Yeah, you're like a little soft-spoken, but in like a good way. Not as bad as when you first started. We all had to put you at like 200%. We had to hack Discord, turn you up to 350%. Yeah, that was wild. Those are the early days. All right. It's Friday night. It's 7 p.m. The ideal time for the CRASHDOM vodcast. Is it the time we normally do it at? No, but it's the time we wish we were doing it at. I would say in the 6.5, 7-ish times that we've done a vodcast, we've only actually managed to do it at 7 p.m. on a Friday, like once or twice. But this is officially the time that we would like to do it. And here we are, a week after Extra Life, or 5 days extra for Extra Life. I don't know. That whole weekend was kind of a blur. It was a good weekend. It was a good weekend. And we did sort of have like 2 CRASHDOM vodcasts. We had like the 2-hour Why Charity's Cool, Let's Work on Games, and then we had like, yeah, and then we had like guest star Orpheus Snacks, Q&A Dungeon Master, pat each other in the back for an hour, or in change, during Extra Life. So I guess that's kind of another episode that we sort of did. So it's sort of like,
I think they were both in the same episode.
No. One was like at the very beginning of Extra Life, and another one was the next day. See, the whole weekend's kind of a blur.
You did something on Saturday?
I'm pretty sure you, me, and Orpheus hung out on Saturday for an hour and told each other how great we thought each other was.
Okay. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Oh, let me turn off them storm clouds in the background. All right, cool. So, anyways, here we are a week later. We made over $5,000 for charity, for Extra Life charity. It was a very, very good weekend. Played a lot of cool games, a lot of flavorful games, a lot of different flavors of games. And during the past week, Matt Colville dropped a video. And his videos are very good. I love his videos. Been following his videos since he first started, putting them out about D&D and how to be a DM and all that kind of stuff. He and I are both kind of old, and we've both played older editions of D&D, and we were both kind of like put through the adversarial DMs, the storytelling DMs, the trying different systems, the watching the systems evolve. And we both sort of have a similar approach to DMing, which is I present the problems, you come up with the solutions. There's no challenge rating balancing. There's no meticulously making sure the encounters are fair and balanced and normal. It's just, this would be cool. I hope they live. And that's the approach. And so I get a lot of validation, a lot of echo chamber validation from Matt Colville videos. This last video, though, it kind of hit me pretty hard because it was very similar to the video that you and I did 2 weeks ago, where we talked about how much we were enjoying Cyberpunk and why to play Cyberpunk, you should just play Cyberpunk, right? Like, you don't need to try and make 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons into Cyberpunk because someone already did all the work to make Cyberpunk. So just play Cyberpunk. Colville's video was very much why does the player's handbook have dungeoneering stuff in it if you don't really do any real dungeoneering, like any dungeon delving, any super dungeons in 5th edition? And then the video went on to say, like, what exactly do you do in 5th edition? Like, what is the flavor of 5th edition other than just being 5th edition, right? Like, what is it? And one of the strongest arguments I think he made was, you got a character from Dungeons of the Mad Mage, you got a character from Curse of Strahd, and you got a character from, I don't know, Spelljammer, right? If you looked at the character sheets, how would they... Oh, you disappeared because the monster manual finally downloaded. There we go. From the... that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, the Monster Hunter thing. But yeah, he said like if you looked at the character sheets from each of those campaigns, would you really see any difference, right? Like mechanically, they're all the same. Curse of Strahd says it's a horror game, but is it? You know, like Spelljammer says it's a sci-fantasy space exploration. I don't know. You know, is it though? Like Dungeons of the Mad Mage says it's a super dungeon crawler, but is it, right? Like, and then he went on to discuss the dungeon crawler, the theme, right, of a dungeon crawler game, which is survival horror, you know, keeping track of your light sources, keeping track of your food, delving deeper into the dungeon, knowing when to stop, or the risk versus reward of going further than you can. And as he's describing it, I'm of course thinking about Giphy Glyph's Darker Dungeon system, which is the perfect way to run a survival horror dungeon crawl system. Everything in Darker Dungeons is about the dungeon crawl system. It's not about playing a normal narrative D&D game. It is about going to remote locations, into deadly dungeons, trying to go down as far as you can, and managing all of your resources. Everything about your character in Giphy system is a resource. Hey, what's up, just jockeys? If you looked at a character from a Giphy Glyph Darker Dungeon game, and you compared it to a 5e raw Curse of Strahd character sheet, they would not look the same, right? So that got me thinking, like, what is, like, 5e? What is the flavor? What is the theme of 5e? Like, he asked the question, but the only answer he really came away with is 5e is nothing, right? It's just, it is what it is. Like, it doesn't really do it doesn't really do anything well. It doesn't do anything outstanding that another system doesn't do better. It's not even a jack of all trades, master of none. It's just kind of there. And because it is so popular, because it is so well supported, because it is so neutral on the palette and neutral on the mechanics, it's just, you know, it's what you go to. It's what you get, right? It's cheese pizza. And you and I have said this a number of times, right? That when we talked about 1D&D and how they're doubling down on making it even more simplistic, even more vanilla. So I started thinking, like, as I listened to Colville go on for about 20 minutes about essentially, like, what are we even doing with 5e at this point? And it kind of hurt a little bit, right? Because that's my bread and butter. Like, I run paid games, and it's easy to fill games because 5e is popular, and it's the standard, and there's a lot of support for it. And I'm publishing adventures now for 5e, and that is because it's got the biggest audience, and because there's the open gaming license, and you can do DM's Guild, or you can do drive-through, or you can do your own stuff. And as long as you follow certain guidelines and rules, you can publish whatever you want for the game. And so, like, there's that appeal to it, but also, like, I had to look hard in the mirror, and I had to admit that, like, I don't really play 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. I play my version of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. And the community that we've built, for the most part, uses those house rules, those 60 pages of house rules, to do that. And so if you looked at a character from any one of our games compared to a raw character, you would not recognize it. Like, there's such a difference there. The question that I think I'm asking myself, and I'm going to start asking myself moving forward, is when I have an idea for a game I want to run, how much work, how many new systems, how many new supplements, how many changes, how many things do I have to do to make the cheese pizza a pepperoni pizza, a vegetarian pizza, a white sauce garlic spinach Alfredo pizza? Like, what do I have to do? Is that amount of work to capture the flavor, the theme, the feel, the gameplay style, the genre that I'm trying to get from that game, is it even worth it, or would it be better just to find a system that already does that? And you answer that question for yourself with Cyberpunk. But I thought maybe we could look at the campaigns that we are currently running, that we're planning to run, and that we've run before, and kind of like say, okay, so we started with a cheese pizza, and then what did we do to change it and get that flavor?
I guess let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Did Rhyme feel like a survival horror?
I think very much it did. I try to explain to people who watched the game or heard about the game that every decision we made was weighed against how difficult it was to recover from whatever we did. What I hate about 5e to a certain, from a storytelling standpoint, is that it's such a video game. Like, you know, it doesn't matter how badly beat up you are, magic will solve all your problems. And then the blood of heroes will solve all your other problems. And the blood of heroes is just something that I came up with on my own to kind of explain why D&D characters just heal and level up faster than everyone else. They are just cut from a better cloth. They are genetically superior. They are heroes. They're just better than everybody else. They can survive things that normal people couldn't. They are in some way little demigods in training, and so that's why they can get filled with arrows, burned horribly, fall in a pool of acid, and then they go to sleep, and then they wake up 6 to 8 hours later, or 4 hours later if they're an elf or a warforged or any of this other bullshit, and then they feel great. Everything's great. Feel super. Everything's fine. 30 days from now, I'll be punching God in the dick. 5th edition D&D. That I never felt like that in Rime. In Rime of the Frost Maiden, especially in the beginning, I was terrified all the time. I was like, any fight, we have to really ask ourselves, is this fight worth it? Yeah, and I think one of your laments as a DM was there was so much side content that we just didn't go to because we just couldn't afford to. Like, we just couldn't risk it because we did the things that we felt we had to do, and we did the things that we thought we could do, but we definitely, and we had some real sloppy bitches in that party, but we did not take a lot of unnecessary risks, in my opinion, compared to a normal D&D group, because you had created the flavor that in that campaign you had to manage your resources. You had to really assess your risks, and you had to understand that if you got caught out in the middle of nowhere, away from a sanctuary, and you had no resources left, you weren't going to get them back. And that was very scary. That was very scary. We had to basically bank on the power of plot, putting save points in the final dungeon, because if there hadn't been save points in the final dungeon, all the momentum of the campaign would have come to an abrupt halt, because it would have been old school D&D. We would have delved into the caves of hunger. No spoilers. # no spoilers. We would have delved into this quote unquote final dungeon. We would have gone a certain distance and then been like, well, shit, guess we're going back to town. Hope all the stuff doesn't respawn while we're gone. And then we come back. It would have taken months. It would have taken months through the final dungeon. But that's how it was back in the day when the flavor was dungeon crawling.
And when you needed a 10-foot pole.
When you needed the 10-foot pole, exactly. So yeah. So okay, that's a great example. So you adapted quite a bit from Giphy Glyphs, whose Darker Dungeon system emphasizes resource management. Yeah. So I felt like that was good, and I don't think I could show someone a character from that campaign versus a raw D&D campaign, and they would be able to see right away that things were different. They would say, what are fate points? They would say, why do you have extra inspiration? Why do you have all these crafting materials? What did you need crafting materials for? You could look...
Are you actually eating rations?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you could look at the character sheet, and you knew that things were different when we did Rime of the Frost Maiden. So I think you were successful in that, but I also think that 5e was able to adapt with minimal effort to allow that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's see. A campaign that I have run or I am running that I had to change the flavor of the cheese pizza to make it fit more with the campaign. Hmm. I would say that Odyssey, Prime, has had very minimal changes from 5e. It rewards magic users more than non-magic users because traditional 5e.
Yeah.
The real big flavor change is simply that the characters are godly, divine slash destined by fate sort of thing. So that had a sort of built-in fate system where they could, die and keep going and that sort of thing. But there were very few like mechanics in play for Prime that made it feel, I think, any different than normal D&D, right? Like, so the flavor was there in so much as we had ancient Greek setting and we had ancient Greek problems, but there were no like mechanics for like the moral quandaries and things like that.
I guess the mechanic that I would think of is the whole how death works in Odyssey, where in 5e, someone dies, you just I'm a revivify, and that's okay. But because of the way this setting is set up, like
oh right, there's a literal god of death that your party knows personally, and they maybe can hold a grudge, right? So that was definitely something that that impacted both campaigns. For Mythic, I wanted to try all the Giphy stuff, and I felt like it was a good choice for the lower levels, but it definitely became tedious, and I think to a certain extent, it kind of got in the way of feeling like heroes after a certain point, which is why I kind of opted to phase that stuff out. But I think in a way it was good because it kind of reinforced that the zero to hero like Hercules vibe, right? Like you guys started, everything was a struggle. Yeah. Everything was a struggle, and now you're getting to the point where you are like growing into that role of hero, and things are becoming easier. You're becoming more powerful. So I feel like that was good. I definitely do feel like it was good, and I definitely feel like both games have their own flavor, but they're certainly not super flavorful, other than using my house rules document and having a couple of nuances based on the campaign setting. Certainly doesn't have the stark contrasting vibe that you had from Rime of the Frost Maiden, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I
think for like in Odyssey, the like you're supposed to be becoming heroes and that whole thing. So I think that works really well for 5e
with 5e, right? Yeah,
and the whole thing of 5e is like you're heroes.
Yeah, and the whole setting, all of the dungeons in the setting are relatively small, which is also something that 5e supports. There's like one super dungeon, and even that super dungeon could be made small by clever choices and just luck and things like that. It's certainly not a super dungeon that you are delving. It is like a super dungeon that you are infiltrating and trying to survive without too many spoilers. So, like, I think in a way, Odyssey and Red Hand of Doom are the perfect games for 5e. I think the question is, what is 5e? I would say 5e is Dritz-Duerden Dungeons & Dragons. You are a very strong, very cool action hero, and you do a lot of fighting, and you don't do a lot of dungeons. And when you do dungeons, they ain't that hard. And the main thing that you're doing is being hot and cool and flirting with each other and with NPCs. And when things get too hard for you, be it a puzzle, be it a roleplay challenge, you can just roll dice and let them figure it out for you. It is very much like casual superhero fantasy fulfillment. I think that is the cheese pizza flavor of 5th edition D&D, like the more I think about it. To kind of answer that Colville question of like, what is 5e? What is the style of play of 5e? I think it is very much casual superhero fantasy fulfillment. Yeah. And if you want a game that is not casual superhero fantasy fulfillment, you're gonna have to change it up. You're gonna have to change it up a lot. So I guess like running through games. You are running a Monster Hunter game right now, of which I just downloaded the Monster Hunter stuff. So let me open that up.
So yeah, I'm using the homebrew made by Arnwell, if that's how you pronounce it. It'll pop up when you put it up there.
So you're not? It's not the one by Amel Wind. That's the one I have.
Amel Wind.
Okay,
Wind, that's what it is. Yeah,
all right, cool.
So yeah, and pretty much I'm using pretty much all the content from there. But there's also a bunch of other changes that I've made on my own that aren't in here, like how Palicos work, and how Palamutes work, and how and I'm using all my monsters are Giphy Glyph monsters instead of the monsters here. And actually, if you look at their monster manual, some of them actually have Paragon actions and are based off the whole Giphy Glyph system.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, some of the other dragons are set up that way, but the whole the cooking system, I used their cooking system as like a base, but then I decided to use my own, which you guys just cook and throw in an ingredient, and then I tell you if it has a buff or not.
Yeah.
So the whole thing here is I'm just trying to get that feeling of Monster Hunter and D&D at the same time.
Right.
And I think I got more of the game from the one shots than I did in this campaign. But I think the marriage of the two is pretty good so far.
Right.
In the campaign.
Well,
but
yeah.
Do like the amount of work to go through and kind of like get this set up with normal 5e system. This huge document is here.
Yeah,
that shows you all this stuff.
420 pages of house rules of homebrew, so that 5e could feel like Monster Hunter.
Yeah,
that's a lot. That's a lot of pages of custom content to try to feel like Monster Hunter. And then I would argue that the inclusion of magic users would immediately, for me, take away the feeling that I was playing Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was something that you had to choose on your end, was to kind of remove that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that I downloaded, this is a 400-something page monster manual. This isn't this isn't even the player's handbook, which is another like 100-something pages, I believe.
That's the one that has all the weapons and all that stuff. So yeah, it is a lot.
Yeah, so we're talking like 500 plus pages of content just to get that cheese pizza to taste like a meat lover's Monster Hunter pizza, essentially.
Like a well done steak.
Yeah, well done steak, exactly. I have always, since I first discovered people were making Monster Hunter monsters into D&D monsters, I've always poached 5e Monster Hunter monsters because they're flavorful, they're cool looking. It's a nice change of pace. People that play Monster Hunter get very excited when they see a Monster Hunter monster in D&D. And the team, this Amel Wind and their buddies, they do a fantastic job, I think, of capturing the feel of the monster without it just being another claw bite. Claw bite. I get tired of claw bite. Like one of my favorites is the Glavenus, right? Where instead of a breath weapon, it like spins like a Beyblade, like across the battlefield. Like stuff like that is very, very cool. Would I ever commit the time and the effort to do what you're doing to capture that full feeling of Monster Hunter? I don't know. I mean, I put a lot of work into trying to make my Curse of Strahd game feel different, feel so flavorful for horror, for Curse of Strahd, for gothic horror, Castlevania vibes, the whole deal. So I definitely think I'm capable of putting in that work, but I'd have to be so passionate about what I was doing to put in that work, because it was a lot of work. It's like a lot of work to change it up like that, you know? Yeah. And
even when you feel like, okay, I got enough stuff done when I'm running. While you're running, stuff's gonna come up, and you're like, all right, we gotta figure out how to do this.
Yeah. Well, right away, Remy's character just throwing mad curveballs at you, right? Because we only had 4 people sign up for the game. We were hoping for 5. So we were like, well, we could do a beast heart, and then that would give us like that extra person without having that extra person. But then part of the beast heart is they can talk to and communicate with animals. But that's a weird gray area according to the makers of the 5e Monster Hunter game, because they're wyverns and they're dragons. They're not beasts per se, right? And so like, but then the beast heart's like, oh, but also monsters, and it's like, but like, I don't. I didn't sign up to play Monster Hunter Stories. I signed up to play Monster Hunter. Do you know what I'm saying? So like, I don't want to know what the monsters are thinking. I want the monsters to die. Like, that's what I signed up for. I don't want to feel bad about every single monster dying because we can talk and because we can hear their story and we know what they're doing. Like, that's not why I'm here. That's not why I'm here. So yeah, like just little things like that. Monster Hunter as a video game franchise is about as simple and beautiful a formula as you could possibly get. It is macaroni and cheese of video games, right? Like, every game is roughly the same plot, roughly the same pace, roughly the same reason for doing everything you're doing, just a slight change in mini games and geography, right? Like, that's, and everybody's okay with that. They've been okay with it for like, what, 20 years now, or however long it's been. Yeah. Same deal with Pokemon. You know, they try to mess with Pokemon formula too much. People get crazy upset. I haven't tried to play the 5e Pokemon game. I've heard some people really enjoy it, but it kind of feels,
Remy ran one. Yeah.
It feels to me like it just wouldn't work very well with 5e. Is my takeaway. And all the times I've tried to have like little Pokemon battles in as mini games inside my D&D campaigns, it always feels very tedious and very like everyone's deliberately holding back and deliberately opting into this minigame instead of it just being a strong mechanic that it's designed with. Yeah. So I don't know how I feel about it. I'm enjoying the Monster Hunter game, and I feel like it is flavorful. Sometimes I feel almost like it's too flavorful. Like there's a lot of sessions that we are just crafting stuff. And even when I play Monster Hunter the video game, I do not care much for crafting things. I'm like, I want to use a switch axe, and then I'm like, I'll just get switch axe stuff. That's it. That's my investment in the crafting system. Yeah. But the guys in our group they're into it, right? They're like, oh, we need this to get this, and we combine this, and we'll get that, and if we do these things with this, we'll get that. And I'm just like, cool. I stabbing. One thing that's interesting is the inclusion of the A5E maneuvers. That's been significant. Because a lot of us are already at level 5 looking at these characters like, this is the most complicated 5th edition rogue I've ever seen. Right?
It's like you're a magic user.
Yeah, I feel like a magic user. I feel like a 4th edition character that was given way too many abilities. Like I liked 4th edition because it did a hard cap. It was like, you get this many abilities, and as you level up, you can replace lower level abilities with higher level abilities, but you can hold on to those lower level abilities if you want, because maybe they're just that good, or they're just that thematic for your character. The way we're doing things right now, you get it all, baby. Like, you get it all. We had, Sven wasn't able to show up for Red-Handed Doom one week, and we all had to work as a team to run his ranger. His A5E ranger was so complicated that we needed a team of people to try to figure out what was going on. So I do feel that A5E is certainly a pizza topping that you can add to immediately make your cheese pizza a little bit spicier and definitely make things a bit more equitable for non-casters, for sure. No, Lexeus, I don't. I don't like farming. I don't like farming anything in any game. So I've played WoW since like beta, right? I was like there day one. I have a character from day one on WoW. I got the mini Diablo pet from the collector's edition. That's how ancient I am, okay? And I have played like engineer on that day one character the whole time. Here's how I farm for engineering. I go to the auction house and I buy all the things that I need. That's how I farm the materials I need. I don't like grinding, and I don't like farming, and I never do, and I never will. I have a guide open that tells me exactly what things to make because I don't want to have to figure it out for myself. I just has no appeal to me. Like, I like the idea that the engineer can do cool things and make fun stuff and things like that, but I don't want to actually. I don't want to. I'm not invested in it. Do you know what I'm saying? So like that's a mechanic for me that I'm not super excited about. But it's good that other people are excited about it, and I don't mind constantly rolling out athletics checks or whatever to help harvest stuff, I guess. But
that's part of the reason why I decided, like, because it's kind of getting, like, you guys are killing stuff a lot more now, and you're about to fight a whole bunch of stuff, so there's gonna be a lot of carving. So that's why I was like, maybe you guys should maybe we should pare down the number of having to roll each time you get stuff, because you guys are gonna, like, at this point you guys have enough modifiers on this stuff that you're almost never gonna fail. And even if you do fail, there's succeeding the cost and bardic inspiration and so much other stuff. So
yeah, and that's for sure. At what point are you just rolling dice to roll dice?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, like Monster Hunter, adding all the homebrew in for all this stuff. The homebrew from A5E, the homebrew from the Monster Hunter games. All the stuff that we have in our patch document, like stuffing all together, trying to get that, martial monster hunting, fantasy thing. I think it works out, but again, it is a lot of work just to try and pick and choose and get everything from everywhere, and then trying to get it together and like use a sewing kit to make sure everything works together and it's tied together and there's no like loose ends and stuff like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, and this document right here with the world patch document, that as a community we've been working on this, building this, pecking away at this, refining it, changing it. I think it's solid. It's a solid set of house rules, and I think it goes a long way towards creating the flavor pizza that we want to have, right? Like this is our cheese pizza, but it's like Chicago deep dish cheese pizza, right? So it's still a cheese pizza. It's still the rules that everybody kind of uses as the basis for the games that they're running on our server, but it's also not the same cheese pizza recipe that Wizards of the Coast is going to sell you. It's not the raw pizza, right? And even then, it was a lot of work to go through here and make these decisions and make these changes. There was a lot of discussion. There's a lot of playtesting that went into this to decide what works and what doesn't work. And a lot of hard decisions that newer DMs aren't going to want to make, or DMs that don't want to be considered hard asses. They don't want to be considered mean. Like just things like going into the spells and saying that Goodberry doesn't provide nourishment. Like, just that one change suddenly makes, like, if you did want to use rations in your campaign, well, now you actually can, because they can't just Goodberry their way out of a solution. Or, like, your solution with Monster Hunter, okay, they don't really care about rations, but what if rations gave you random buffs? Now do you care about it? Well, a little bit, yeah. I mean, I want random buffs. Like, I was gonna eat food anyways, so, yeah, I kind of do care now. I like expertise from A5E and guidance kind of being the same. I loved the idea from 1D&D of guidance being reaction based, but I don't know if I'm going to make that official or not. But I mean, it's a great idea. But little things like going in here and getting rid of the very powerful conjuring spells and animate object spells to force people to take Tasha's summoning spells. Tasha's summoning spells are not as good, period. Like, I don't think they're as good. And nobody would take them if they could just take the conjuring spells. It wouldn't make any sense. That's something that we had to, as a community, be like, well, we're gonna use these summoning spells, and in order to make sure we're using the summoning spells, we're not going to be using these conjuring things anymore. And it's just little things like that add up to adjusting the flavor of our D&D cheese pizza. to be what we're after, what we're looking for. Just a lot of things in here to try and prop up non-casters, to try to prop up melee builds, just to kind of give some equity to these character creations. Question from chat: how much homebrew is too much? Is there a quantifiable amount to where it's no longer the original game or edition? For sure. I would hold that if you are not playing in Adventures League, you're probably using homebrew. That's a safe bet. I can't imagine that there's any table out there that runs as raw as Adventures League. I can't. I mean, there must be tables out there that run that raw, but I can't really think of any that I know personally. There's always going to be tables that use, like, advantage on flank, which is an optional rule. Feats is technically an optional rule. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty. I mean, raw is pretty stale, so I'm assuming that most tables are. Yeah, but yeah, like, that's a great question. If somebody joined one of my games that didn't know about the way I ran games, and I was like, oh yeah, so here's 62 pages of house rules I need you to read before we play D&D, and it's like, what? Like, I don't think I want to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like, okay, well, this is what I used to run my game, so I would say that 62 pages of house rules is too many house rules. Like, if I joined somebody's D&D game and they were like, okay, cool, here's the guidelines for making a character, make sure that you check the world patch document. I'd be like, what are you talking about, world patch document? I'm here to play some Dungeons & Dragons. And they were like, yeah, but we use this document here, that's this Google document that's 62 pages long. I'd be like, cool, I'm out. Like, I don't know if I would read 62 pages. Yeah, like, that's a lot of stuff to kind of be on board for that. So I would say that that's too much homebrew. At that point, are we playing Dungeons & Dragons anymore? Can we in full confidence say we're playing Dungeons & Dragons? Dungeons and Daddies claims that they play Dungeons & Dragons. They don't play Dungeons & Dragons. They don't play Dungeons & Dragons. They play make-believe with occasional dice rolls. That's not Dungeons & Dragons. Yeah, we're in the same boat.
I mean, a pepperoni pizza is just cheese pizza with something on top.
Right, but we're like extravaganza pizza. I feel like we got like 10 or more toppings on this pizza. Yeah.
This is a cheeseburger and Philly cheesesteak, pizza, deep dish, pizza.
And there's no shortage of things that you can do to add on to your to add that flavor via homebrew, right? Like Conti ran Worlds of Warcraft. Okay, so let me see. Did I download the Worlds of Warcraft? Yeah, here we go. This chonk ass book. Here we go. So 153 pages to play Worlds of Warcraft flavored Dungeons and Dragons. How is this any different than regular D&D? If I looked at a character sheet from this, wouldn't it just look like a character sheet from regular D&D? Having played this, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that this actually does feel different than vanilla raw Dungeons and Dragons. This is definitely not a cheese pizza. This is a Worlds of Warcraft flavored pizza. They made a lot of decisions, a lot of choices. They put a lot of love and thought and playtesting and revisions to try and make this feel different than regular Dungeons and Dragons, and I think that they succeeded. The character that I played was like a gnome warrior, and I definitely felt different than a normal 5e fighter, because it was kind of a barbarian fighter mashup, but it was also just 100% a warrior from Worlds of Warcraft. So, like, they did a good job of capturing that flavor. Now, what did it take to get that flavor? 153 pages of custom content, 500 pages for Monster Hunter. We'll say, what, 250 pages for Worlds of Warcraft if you add in their monster manual and their other supplements. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of work, guys, to make your campaign stand out and feel different than a normal 5th edition game. And then you do have to ask yourself, at what point do I just play something else? At what point have I done too much work? Could I have just made an entire system on my own, right? Could I have just made something up instead of doing this? Could I have just run this game in Fate, you know? And yeah, like how many rules do you need to capture the feeling that you're going for in your campaign? These are all the kind of questions I think people need to be asking themselves moving forward. Or, yeah, you're going to just run a bunch of games that all sort of just feel the same. Like, it's going to be the same, you know? The melee characters are going to start stronger than everybody else. The Moon Druid is going to dominate early play. They're going to get to 5th level, and everyone's going to feel really strong for a little while. And then the spellcasters are going to start to outpace everybody else at a disgusting rate. And then you're going to get to high levels, and it's going to be tedious and grindy, and anybody that doesn't have spells is going to have like a 3 or 4 minute turn, and everybody with spells is going to be literally changing all of reality. And it doesn't matter what name you put on the pizza or what what you think you're selling. It's still the same cheese pizza. It's still the same problems. It's still the same gameplay loops. It's still the same meta that you always are going to get. Without homebrew, without custom rules, without extra supplements, it doesn't matter what campaign you run. It's always going to be a 5th edition D&D campaign. I think that's kind of like the takeaway that I'm having from that Colville video and from our own experiences here. So, I don't know.
And to just take a step back on that. That can be okay if that's what you want.
Oh yeah. I don't mean yeah.
Yeah, if that's what you're looking for. If you're looking for, the high fantasy, hero, fantasy type of thing. Whether you want it at low level, inside of a different setting or something like that. But if that's the type of game you want, 5th edition is going to be there for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Every time you do it, it's going to be there, but it's always that's the game you're going to get from it.
If you need a game that will allow you and your friends to casually sit down, chuck some golf balls with a huge number variance, and just sort of bullshit out some fun stories, cast some cool spells, just casually kick the crap out of some monsters, occasionally have your heart rate increase once in a while, 5e is there for you. Like, it is not a bad system. It is okay to like cheese pizza. It is okay to have your friends over for a cheese pizza party. It is okay to like the things that you like. I don't play it all the time. I generally just play every time a new expansion comes out, and then I quit once I hit max level. But I've been playing WoW since it came out. WoW's been out for 20 years. World of Warcraft. They had I think it's 20th year anniversary or something horrible like that. Is going on right now. Like that, or 18, something like that. There are people that they live and die by this. Like that is their game. That has always been their game. They grew up with this game. They're gonna die with this game. Like even Blizzard couldn't top their own game, so they were just like, okay, we'll just keep making this game, I guess.
They went back in time.
The only competition for WoW is more WoW, as far as a lot of people are concerned. Is it the cheese pizza of MMOs? Absolutely. Is it bad to like it? I don't think so. If that's what you enjoy, if you're having fun, who's going to stop you? Do you know? But I think that the lesson here, the takeaway is, the discussion online, at least in the stuff that I've been following, is what is 5e? What do you want out of 5e? What can 5e give you? And I'm here to say, having played a World of Warcraft game, a Monster Hunter game, a survival horror in the Frozen Waste game, a West Marches style survival game, a dungeon crawler game, having played right now a gothic horror game that I think the systems I have in place for my Curse of Strahd game are going to deliver exactly what I'm looking for, and it was a lot of work to set that up. I ran a Divinity game over the weekend that I think very much captured the feeling of playing Divinity, but
How much
also
work went
playing.
into that?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of work, like 50 hours of prep went into a 5 or 6 hour session because I wanted to capture that feeling. I had to make mechanics, I had to make items, I had to come up with systems, and even then there were still systems that didn't get developed as much as I would have liked. So like,
You know what I
yeah,
thought of?
what?
You probably should have just went into the Divinity and did the Game Master mode.
Oh, Game Master mode for that? Yeah, yeah, that probably would have made a lot more sense, honestly. Yeah, yeah, but like that's the thing that you got to ask yourself. Like
Yeah.
when you look at how much work it's going to take to get the flavor that you want, should you just go get the flavor that you want instead of trying to make D&D the flavor that you want? I can't give the answers to that. That's going to be every DM, that's going to be every group, that's going to be how much time you have and you're willing to spend. That's going to be what your group is willing to endure and put up with. If Conti told me, "Hey, I'm only going to let you play in my Warcraft game if you read all 161 pages of this Warcraft book or whatever, or 153 pages," I'd be like, "Cool, but I'm not going to read it, so I guess I can't play in your Warcraft game." But Conti was like, "This is the stuff. I've read the stuff. I know what's going on. You should read the stuff for your race and your class at least." And that's a fair compromise. I was willing to do that. But it's like the people that play in my games. Like, I say, yeah, you need to read this 60-page, homebrew document. If people are like, I don't want to do that, I'm like, well, you probably aren't going to have a good time playing in my game then, because you're not going to know what's going on. You have to kind of have those expectations and that willingness to kind of go there and meet that. Yeah, I don't know, but I will say that I'd play that Divinity again in a heartbeat. I really enjoyed the excitement and the flavor that it added. I felt like it was bringing a lot of that 4th edition flavor that I was missing back into the game. The trading an action for bonus action for a second bonus action just gives you so much more flexibility with your character and what you could do during play. It was very much edging towards that Pathfinder, you get 3 actions per turn kind of situation. And it made me realize that, yeah, like 2023 is probably the year I'm going to have to play some Pathfinder 2, because the things that I'm enjoying, the homebrew that we're making, those things are very much wrapped up, I think, in that Pathfinder 2 rule set. And while we could fake it to make it, we could create that stuff. If you find that you're just rebuilding another game system, maybe you should just try that other game system. That's kind of where I'm at. Yeah. So, Jared points out in chat, your world doc is manageable if you focus only on the stuff pertaining to your character, to be honest. Yeah, no, I don't think that our world patch doc is overwhelming. I think one of the big things that helped it was we made the crafting section like optional / per campaign. And I think that's another thing with the flavor, right, of like a campaign. Like raw, there is no crafting system for the most part. There's certainly no harvesting and crafting system, and so that's the thing that you got to ask yourself again when you're coming up with your new campaign. It's like, how are you going to handle crafting? How are you going to handle characters dying? How are you going to handle coming back from death? How are you going to handle magic? If you don't make these decisions, you're just going to have another 5th edition campaign where everything is going to pretty much follow the same patterns, and most of the characters and most of the builds and most of the things are all going to just be the same things that you always see all the time. And I mean, if you like that, you like that, and that's okay. But if you, yeah. Oh man. So, I don't know. What's the final take on this? What do you think? Like, The cheese pizza, this 5th edition D&D. You've been playing it for 2 years now, right? 2.5 years, Tom?
Yeah, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
2.5 years now.
How are you feeling about it? How are you feeling about it? Like, are
Well,
you ready for new things, or do you see yourself playing it until it's not playable anymore?
I haven't played enough of it for it to get tired of. Like, I've never played a melee character until now. It's gonna be my first real melee character. Like my first campaign I ever finished was Witchlight.
Yeah, true.
So I haven't got a chance to like try out enough stuff. So stuff still seems fresh to me. Yeah.
Witchlight is one. I wonder if it felt different from a normal 5e campaign, or if it was just
the biggest difference, I think, and from hearing, at least from when we after the game was finished, we talked about it. At least the players, the biggest thing was being real life characters inside of a fantasy world. The isekai part of it made it feel very, very different.
Right. Yeah.
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 Like just being able to like take your own personal knowledge, be like, okay, this is what's happening, and then also being a fantasy character in a fantasy world, being like, okay, this is what's happening. Things like that was made the flavor of the game feel a lot different. Like things that we would try and do. We wouldn't. If I was playing a fantasy character, I probably wouldn't have thought of that because I'm not realizing that this is a fairy tale.
Right. You're not like, oh, we're in Peter Pan right now, or oh, this is like some Wizard of Oz stuff going on here.
Just like a real life person seeing magic and then saying like, okay, I wonder how magic works, and then like when we met against those demons that were like playing music.
Yeah.
Guitar, and I was like, we should probably just play air guitar with them and see what happens. But we didn't do that. But like being able to think, I wouldn't. If I was playing a fantasy character, I wouldn't have thought of that.
Right. Yeah. So
that and then going to real world, Coast City.
Yeah. Like, and again, like, that's one of those things I think when you are looking to run a campaign, like, you got to ask yourself, like, what do I want from the campaign? Is 5e going to give me the things I need for that campaign? What else do I need to add to get where I need to be? Like, this is a good foundation, but what else do I need to add to get where I'm going to be? If you find yourself adding so much, maybe you should look for another game that has done all that work for you.
Especially if the flavor, like before you even try and change stuff, just think like, okay, I want to do this. Has somebody already done it yet? And
for sure. Yeah. Imagine you didn't bother to Google and you're like, yeah, I'm going to do a Monster Hunter game, guys. I spent the last 80 hours making my own Monster Hunter system. And somebody's like, oh, you did? Okay. Did you know that there's 700 pages of Monster Hunter content already made?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you feel about that? Yeah.
So at that point, they did a lot of work to retrofit 5e to fit Monster Hunter, but like maybe you run into something and there's actually a Monster Hunter system out there.
That's true. Helena's that we couldn't show on stream because it's still in early access or whatever. That's a 5e campaign setting / rule supplement that's trying to be Monster Hunter, but it's trying to be 5th edition high magic Monster Hunter. And I almost wonder if it's going to be a better Monster Hunter because they are not trying to be something else. They're just trying to be 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons focusing on monster hunting. As opposed to the Monster Hunter, 5e that wants very much to just be Monster Hunter. Like, period. Right?
I mean, if you go through their document, it is kind of they do have magic and they integrated magic into the whole system. For our campaign, I try to make it as close to the game as we can, but also be a little bit more adventuring rather than just hunting.
Right.
But yeah, in both cases, like, there's two people here who are gonna like. I want to know like what the comparison is. Like, if I look at this one, the Monster Hunter homebrew setup here, and then look at hers and compare what they did, how they did things differently, and then you look at that and like, look, these are two people trying to get the same type of flavor, and
Right.
how widely different or how the same they are, and like if there's a thing there, that might be a cool exercise once their stuff comes out. Um,
Oh
so yeah,
yeah,
there's that.
absolutely, yeah.
And like thinking about how I wanted to get that cyberpunk feeling in a tabletop RPG, and knowing that there's a cyberpunk tabletop out there, so I should go and look at this and see if I can just check it out first, see if I want to go this way. It's funny. After we finished the Monster Hunter, I mean, the Cyberpunk, the two sessions. I know Remy was mentioned, like, maybe we should have just redid 5e for this instead, because like you guys were like playing it, and like I think the one thing you have to keep in mind is that when you go to a new system, it is going to feel different.
Oh right, yeah.
And so you got to make sure that do you want it to actually feel different, or do you want it to be, a different setting?
Yeah,
You got to think about too when you're looking at this.
And it's all about tempering expectations too.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because like all right, so some of us, like Remy, for example, we say like, I'm tired of Dungeons and Dragons. I want to play a different system, blah, blah, blah. But then you go to play that other system and you're like, I miss being able to roll with advantage. I miss being able to succeed at a cost. I miss those go-to buffs or those go-to spells. I miss getting that +2 for flanking. Like, we have built a 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons that we all really enjoy playing, right?
Yeah.
And so that does make it very hard to switch gears. If I did a Darker Dungeons, a Giphy Glyphs Darker Dungeons mini-series, and it was all about delving a dungeon, right? Like, you guys are here at this very small dungeon town. It is built around the ruins of this ancient dungeon, and the whole campaign, y'all, is darkest dungeon, like the video game. You're going to get stress. You're going to get trauma. You're going to have to go to whorehouses to try to feel better about yourself, and you're still going to die from some horrible disease you picked up either at the whorehouse or in the dungeon. Like, this is bad times, bad feels. Your next character hopefully can pick up where your other character left off. If I didn't preface that, right, like our Curse of Strahd game, right?
Yeah.
I spent the first hour of the first session reminding everybody how shitty it was going to be. Like, I had to say, like, we're having secret death saves. We're having lingering death saves. You can only rest at sanctuaries. What is that? What does that mean? Nobody gets any magic. What does that mean? Like, I was having to, like, refresh because, God forbid, somebody forgot like how bad it was going to be, and we start playing, and they're getting blindsided left and right by me being like, you rolled a death save, and they're like, I know I did, but I don't see it. And it's like, yeah, remember there's hidden death saves. Like, you have no idea if you're dying or not. And it's like, oh well, if I get popped back up, I'll be okay. Well, no, because they're lingering death saves. So until you get to a long rest, you can't have it. Oh well, I'll just go upstairs and get a long rest. Well, you can't because this isn't a sanctuary. And so it would just be like. It would be like playing make-believe with a kid who just keeps making rules up all the time, right? So, like, you have to make sure that flavor, that flavor is being explained well in advance of people signing up for the game. Not at session 0, but, like, when you advertise the game. Like, hey, I'm running a Divinity 2 miniseries, and it is going to be full of explosions, like poison and fire explosions everywhere. If it's raining and one person casts a lightning spell, all y'all get paralyzed. Like, it's gonna be stupid. Like, you need to make sure that is on the can, like it is, so that they can read it and say, oh, this is something that I want. This is the flavor that I'm looking for. Imagine going to a restaurant and they don't give you any description about the food. They're just like, hamburger. And it's like, all right. And then you bring out some fried jalapeno bison, burger that's got, I guess it's technically a burger, but it's certainly not the burger that they were probably expecting when they ordered it. So yeah, keeping those food analogies going, as it were.
Yeah. So yeah, but I think at the end of the day, it's more like, okay, what type of flavor are you looking for? If you're actually just looking for D&D. Like what 5th edition has, the cheese pizza, but maybe a little spicy.
Yeah,
it might be better just a homebrew.
Yeah,
your stuff up. But if you're looking for something completely different, like something that's not going to give you Like if you were to take, it's either gonna require a ton of work, or is not that feeling, is not that hero fantasy thing. Maybe try and find another system.
Yep. And where,
then once you get to that new system, like like make sure you understand that it's going to, that not all systems, like tabletop RPGs. This is kind of something that happened to me, like the idea that all tabletop RPGs were D&D.
Yeah.
I thought that at the beginning, and I think when you have to look at another system, if this is your first time playing a different system, like actually look at it and like actually understand that it's gonna feel like, if you were to play it how it says it's supposed to be played, it's gonna feel different, and be okay with that.
Yeah, definitely. People need to understand that we made this decision. Oh, now it finally downloaded. That's cute. We made this decision to play Avatar tabletop, right? So we're playing like Nickelodeon, Legends of the Avatar. Like, we're playing this system. It's not Dungeons & Dragons. We're playing this because we want to have something as authentic and as flavorful as possible to the show, to the IP, to the franchise. So we're playing this. We're not playing 5th edition. You're not going to have advantage. You're not going to have access to your favorite spells. You're not going to be able to scream guidance into your mic every 5 minutes to make sure that you're getting an extra 5 to 20% boost on every flipping dice roll that you try to make. You're not automatically going to succeed on a 20. You're not going to automatically fail on a 1.
Your characters might be bad at stuff.
Yeah. Like, God forbid, right? Yeah. Cyberpunk, it's its own system. You want to play a Witcher game, head over to DriveThruRPG. There's an entire tabletop system designed to make it feel like you are playing Witcher, not Dungeons and Dragons with the bullshit Matt Mercer wannabe Witcher class. Like an actual tabletop game based around hunting monsters, harvesting the monsters, getting bounties for monsters, exploring this world, sorcerers and wizards being like horrible mutants, just like a different flavor of Witcher, but they have special, it's really, really good. It's really, really well done. Non-magic bards that are like rogues and bards kind of got mashed up. It's a beautiful system. It's a flavorful system. It's The Witcher if you want to play Witcher tabletop. They have these solutions, guys, for everything that you want to play. 5e does not have to be the silver bullet solution for everything that you need. Before you sit down and you write 150 pages of custom homebrew that is not been play tested at all because you theory crafted the whole thing when you wrote it, that's the truth. Like, you certainly didn't have time to even proofread your 150 pages of homebrew that you made up for this game. Consider just looking to see if the game is already there and trying that game, like, to get that flavor of pizza. I don't know. I think that's my take on it. And I'm a huge offender of this. I love seeing what I could do with 5e. I love taking the skeleton of 5e and turning it into other things.
We kind of all do. Like,
yeah.
We like because we like 5e so much, we don't want to, and we're comfortable with it. And the core foundation is so vanilla that it's easy to add whatever you need to it, and it still tastes good.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's a cheese pizza. A bad pizza is still pretty good because it's still pizza. A cheese pizza, you put any toppings you want on it, there's a good chance it's still going to taste pretty good. So, yeah, you just got to make sure that the people eating the pizza that you make like pineapple on their pizza, if that's the kind of campaign you're running. Yeah. So, I think in our 1 hour and change, we have answered Matt Colville's question of what exactly does 5e do? What is the theme? What is the flavor of 5e? And I agree with him that 5e feels like 5e. And how that feels is a casual tabletop game that can do a little bit of everything. It doesn't really do anything great, but it does everything good enough that you have a platform to tell some stories, beat up some monsters, and hang out with your friends. Yeah, and if you want more from it, it's a great foundation to add stuff to get more out of it. But if you don't add to it, you are in the end, yes, going to have the same flavor regardless of what campaign you think you're running. It's still just going to be another 5e campaign, and that's okay. So, all right, cool. Well, we're at our hour mark, and I think I feel pretty good about it. So I will continue to run the games that I'm currently running, but certainly as games phase out and as new time slots open up, there is certainly the temptation here to try some of these other systems and really start kind of stretching the legs and seeing what else is out there. I don't know.
I remember at a point you were looking at trying to do Vampire the Masquerade.
I would love to do a World of Darkness game so much. Oh man, that's such a good system. Yeah, there's a lot to do. We'll just have to see what the future holds. For now, though, I'm very excited about the 3 Curse of Strahd games that I'm starting, and I'm going to continue running my Odyssey games. And Red Hand of Doom is sort of my most traditional D&D game at this point, and that's hardly a traditional D&D game. So. Yeah, my plate is full and my cup runneth over with Dungeons and Dragons right now.
What day is each of the Curse of Strahd? So there's Thursday, Sunday. What's your other one?
Every other Saturday night, but that one's not going to be streamed. Yeah, that was just for friends. Yeah, that was just for friends and family. But
okay, so it's Saturday morning, Saturday night, Sunday morning, Sunday night.
Yeah.
And Monday, and then Thursday night.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and then your game on Wednesdays. And then this Tuesday, I'm doing that last Extra Life game with Conti to finish up the World of Warcraft run. So,
all right.
Yeah, it's a lot. Doesn't leave a lot of time to play Cyberpunk, which I would really like to have more time to play Cyberpunk. But oh well. All right. Next week, I don't know what we'll talk about next week, but I look forward to discussing more tabletop stuff next week. And I guess in the meantime, good luck prepping for your upcoming Cyberpunk game. And we'll just keep playing a ton of Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. All right. Well, to everybody in chat, thanks for hanging out. And again, if you're enjoying your Dungeons and Dragons, then there's nobody in the world that could tell you that you are doing it wrong. I know it's one of the lamer things that you hear online is as long as everybody's having fun, you're doing a great job. But honestly, if everybody's having a good time, then you are doing a good job. So who cares? Play what you like, enjoy what you like, but know that for every possible game that you want to run and play, somebody else has probably done most of the work for you already. So maybe spend a little bit of time Googling and stuff before you draft your 150-page manifesto about the new game that you want to run. All right, cool. Then hope everybody has a safe and healthy weekend, and we will see you next time.
All right, take care.
All right.